suspect!
Coming to get you, Bobber.
Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Jeepers Creepers 1 from 2001. Now first of all, we're not going to be talking about Victor Salva today. He was the director for the first Jeepers Creepers movies, the first three. We're not going to be talking about him at all or his backstory. Now with Jeepers Creepers itself, I don't know if any of you guys remember this, but there was an old club called the Britannia Club back in the UK here, where you would order, this is when DVDs were just kind of coming out and being big, you could order 4 in your introductory offer for like £25 for the first offer, and Jeepers Creepers was one of those ones I chose to be one of the first DVDs that I ever owned. I did own about 10 to 15 at the time, but that was one of the first ones that I bought, all thanks to the Britannia Club. I don't think this has ever been confirmed, but there was an episode of Unsolved Mysteries about this couple who are on the highway and they see somebody dumping a body behind an old church or a building, an abandoned building, and they go to investigate once this person goes away. But before the person drives away, they check their license plate so they can follow that person. So anyway, they follow where this thing was wrapped up in a sheet, and it turns out to be a body wrapped up in a sheet. So for some strange reason, the couple get back in the car and they drive after this car with the license plate that they remembered because they were playing a license plate game. And they've never confirmed that Jeepers Creepers was based on this episode of Unsolved Mysteries. I don't know if they've confirmed it or denied it. If they denied that it was based on this episode, then you must be thinking to yourself, I don't believe you. Dari and Trish are the main characters in the film, and if you look at the connection between the two of them, between the two actors as well, Gina Phillips and Justin Long, the connection between those two was absolutely incredible. It almost felt, in fact it did 100% feel like they were brother and sister. I've got a sister who is probably around about the same age gap between those two, and that's how we spoke to each other, that's how we fought with each other. We did play silly games as well, and just the connection that those two had throughout the film kept the film going. You know, those two were the heart and soul of the movie, and because they had such a good connection, whether it's when they were scared or when they were having fun, we were able to latch on to these two people. Now going into this film, like any other person that probably watched this movie back in 2001, is I thought this was a slasher movie. I didn't see many trailers of the film either. I don't even know if the trailer or the initial trailers gave the movie away, couldn't tell you, but I thought this was just a straight up slasher movie with a guy going around killing people on this highway, and that was it. And that was enough to hook me anyway, because of the types of movies that I watched back in the day. But finding out this was a monster movie halfway through the film, not only was I shocked in a good way, but the movie shifted its tone as soon as we found out that it wasn't just a slasher movie anymore. When we found out this was a monster movie, then the movie took a turn for the better. It was also great that when we did find out that it was a monster, they didn't go into this whole history or mystery about the creeper. The only connection we had to the creeper's history or how he works was a character called Giselle, who sings Jeepers Creepers all the time. I don't know how she knows about the creeper, she just knows about the creeper, and that's what's good about this film. They don't over explain things. We find out these characters know about it, and that's it. This is a slow-paced film until we get the reveal for the creeper, and I welcomed the slow pace because of the connection between Dari and Trish. But even when we get that slow build-up, we do get some hints of the creeper here and there, him passing them by, banging into their car, and then seeing him in the distance. That's all we really needed to see at that point for the creeper, because we were more entertained at this point with Dari and Trish. I love the setting, I love the location, everything about this movie was absolutely beautiful. The first half of this film was set during the day, or most of it was set during the day, and then the second half of the movie was set at night when we find out the creeper is a monster. I think that's a great balance of filmmaking, because at the start we get this kind of light-hearted comedy aspect between the two main characters, looking at what they think might be a dead body, even though deep down inside they're probably thinking nothing's happening here. It's all just in our head. But then when we find out something is wrong here and it starts to get dark, then we get into the more creeper aspect of the film. When we do find a little bit more about the creeper from Giselle, we still don't know how he does it or why he does it, or we know why, but we don't know how he's able to do it. We find out that if he wants to take body parts from them, like their eyes, their tongue, their limbs, whatever he wants, he just eats that, and then that becomes him. So if he loses his eyes, for example, he can take someone else's eyes, or if he likes their eyes, he can take their eyes, and now they are part of him. So that's all I really needed to know about the movie, because I still at the time was unsure if I wanted to watch a monster movie, because monster films were kind of out at that point. It was just all slasher films. So when we did see there was a monster, I still accepted it because I was still liking what I saw. And I do think I like the movie more today than I did back then, because I still wasn't fully accepting the monster movie return. But now looking back on it, I think this was a triumphant return for the monster movie. Something that made me accept that it was a monster film was he still looked like a human being from a distance. Yes, of course his face was all deformed and it looked like a monster up close, but his movements, his reactions, seeing him in the distance with the hat on and the normal clothes, driving a car, he had the human aspect to it, something that we could all relate to. But because he was a monster deep down inside, that made it even more scary. I absolutely loved the ending of this film. Again, back in 2001, we usually got a happy ending, whether it was with a monster movie or a slasher movie. But when we find out that Daddy is taken, we still think that he's maybe going to survive, Trish is going to get him back. But he doesn't. He ended up dying in a brutal way. That was a shocking ending for the time, and it still is kind of shocking today, because we all loved, or especially me anyway, I loved Daddy as a character. So when we see him dead at the end, I'm like, oh, if they're going to do a sequel, he can't really be in it, obviously in a human capacity, but he can't be in a sequel if they do a sequel. So it was disappointing, but shocking and great at the same time. Overall, guys, I loved this film. I thought it was really good at the time, but after watching the sequels and then watching it again today, I loved it even more now. I think it stands the test of time. There are movies that are out back then, like the slasher movies of back in the late 90s, early 90s, that don't stand the test of time because they're trying to copy what their predecessor was doing during that time. But Jeepers Creepers done something different. It broke the mould. It brought back the monster film. So for that, it stands the test of time. And not only does it stand the test of time, it stands out amongst films that came out back then around about the same time. So what are your thoughts on this movie, guys? Leave your comments down below and let me know what you think. Also, try, and I know some people can't, but try your best to leave out the director in your conversation down below. Yes, we know what you've done, etc., but try and leave that out. If you do, then talk about it amongst each other. But let me know what you think of the movie overall, guys. And as always, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.